Welcome to TALRadio. We are now going to listen to Mentor Loop, a career guidance from Roopa Sunku, Chief Evangelist at TAL Career Help. In the last week's episode, we have realized how important networking is for a successful career. In today's episode, we would be guided about the ways build an effective network to reach extreme heights in our career.
Hello, everyone. I am back with another episode of Mentor Loop. This conversation today is going to be about networking. I'm Roopa Sunku, Chief Evangelist at Touch a Life Foundation. I'd like to kind of walk you through a checklist to map some of your informal networks. Okay, so there is this concept of an assessed dimension and some of the questions that you need to ask yourself to be able to build that board of directors or your network within an informal setting. First is your mission and your vision in order to kind of pursue that network. And what is your personal mission will then influence the kind of people that you build or create that network with. So with the assessed dimension being mission and vision, you can ask yourself the question, with whom do you discuss company vision and business strategies? Or you could ask yourself, with whom will you discuss what are most important or valued things within the organization? This will clarify what you want to pursue or how you want to pursue it. So again, this is another dimension of a board of directors. You should have somebody who is very close to the mission and the vision and lives it and practices within your organization. So that person, when asked of these two questions, will be able to give you perspective. And this is again at a very high level that I'm talking about. You can also translate this very same thing into something where your mission is to be able to get that promotion, next salary increase. And so you're going to say, what is the most important project that is there within the organization? So that is the business strategy, right? Or what do you think is most valued within the organization? And if you are a developer who is developing on a new tech stack, and maybe Java is the new way to go, or maybe AI and big data is another aspect that will actually help with your mission, which is the promotion to go and pursue. Then next is the work interactions, is the assessed dimension. And what I mean by that is, what are the different information, exchanges of information, documents, processes that are involved within that job function? So the question you may want to ask that person once you've identified them is, with whom do you work to get your best job done, completed, and obviously done well? Next, interestingly, grapevine is the assessed dimension. It is super important to know what's going on in the ecosystem and what may be some of the analysts talking about your ecosystem at a higher level. Or if you were to go ahead and look at it, again, let's take the example of your promotion. The grapevine will be, you know what, they are not doing any more promotions. They are going to be bringing somebody new from the outside. So there is no hiring. Or they may be going into the grapevine saying, there is only college hires that are being done. They are only bringing in people at the entry level and not really bringing in too much other headcount at the higher level because they want to be able to bring in some new skill and new talent in the organization. So those are all things of the grapevine dimension that give you an opportunity to be able to build that informal network and facilitate your mission to be promoted, for example. Hey, also within this assessed dimension, you need to have somebody who are the decision makers. You need to get input and almost seek input, suggestions, and feedback from these decision makers Because obviously, if you want a promotion, you have to be happy to talk to your manager, and your manager should definitely say, I think you're ready, and I would like to put your name up there. So that again becomes that decision making informal network that you are creating. And it may not be your manager, and it is somebody else within the organization that's part of your network that actually recommends you. And many a times that does occur, where somebody who has worked with you seems to think that you are the best thing since sliced bread, or sees the potential to be able to make a difference within your organization that maybe your manager hasn't seen. So make that decision-making capability within your manager, and also utilize other people within the organization or your network to be able to influence your manager to be able to make that decision. Innovation is absolutely, absolutely essential for any network. And these are the folks that you will discuss new ideas, better ways of doing things, and how do you get things done. So there has to be somebody within your network that will also be able to help you with the innovative side of idea generation and completion overall. And you need to have somebody with the expertise in whatever area you're going into and doing. So you are looking for that promotion to that architect level. You want to be able to get an assessment from some of the industry experts within those areas. So let's say you're building and developing a security portfolio for your corporation. And cybersecurity is super important. So I know I have a couple of friends who are working diligently and are part of their securities within other corporations. Those folks can become my network with that expertise in the field and get that advice and get that information to be able to present and position yourself for that promotion. Lastly, customer knowledge always comes in handy, because money talks, right? We've heard this. So if you are able to seal the deal with a customer, or you've been able to make a customer referenceable, or you have unblocked all of the scenarios or issues that that customer was facing, and that becomes a reference point for you to be able to network. I'll share a simple experience of mine that gave me an opportunity to network and actually gave me that upper hand or ability to go ahead and ask for that next promotion. I work at Oracle, and I worked as part of the customer services or the customer experience organization. So there was a customer who came into headquarters in Redwood Shores, and we don't have too many managers here in Redwood Shores representing the apps products. So I got the opportunity to go out and present with a SVP within the organization. He came in to be able to present the overall scenario to the customer. And then I went in to be able to share what is happening in the app space, and more specifically, the issues that they had reported that was troubling them in their implementation. I got to learn that this SVP that I co-presented with had similar career path in the past, or industry reference in the past. So both of us had worked for the airline industry. So that became a networking opportunity. And since he was an SVP, he came back and spoke to my boss's boss, who said that she did an amazing job with this customer. And the customer has definitely turned the corner with the interaction that Roopa and I were able to establish. So fair enough, I did my 360 appraisal in my next review cycle, and was able to land that promotion because this SVP whom I had presented with wrote a recommendation for me. So you never know which part of the network you're able to utilize for that next upward mobility or broad stroke mobility that you want to change within your own career. So let me recap for you. The checklist of the informal network that you need to have, or the board of directors that you need to have, is somebody who can give you the mission and the vision of the organization, somebody who can give you information on the working interactions within your organization, somebody who has the grapevine within the organization, a decision maker in the organization, somebody who can discuss and share innovation and ideas to be played around with in your network and on your board. You absolutely have to have skill expertise or technical expertise within the efforts that you are making. And lastly, what is the influence on a customer who pays those bills and gives you the opportunity to be able to bring some profits into the organization. So those are the dimensions that you need to think about when creating your personal board of directors or your informal network. Again, the quote from Susan Rowan reminds me of a very structured and encapsulates all that I've spoken to you about right now. Networking is an enrichment program, not an entitlement program. So take each of those dimensions that I referenced and make that enrich you, not just make you entitled. You cannot turn around and say, I have X number of people in my network, I have to land that promotion. No, make sure that each of those relationships fit into those dimensions, giving you that opportunity to be able to enrich yourself and get to that next goal in life. I think it's also very important to think about whether you are an extrovert or an introvert while networking, because that makes a big difference in terms of how you network. I personally have reflected on whether I'm an introvert or an extrovert. I believe that I'm in a very constrained reference. If I know who the people are, I know and can build a trusted network, I become an extrovert. Otherwise, if you put me into like that speed dating or a conference setting, I may not do very well because I'm an introvert. So think about that as well while you go into networking. What is your dominant skill and what makes you comfortable to get into that, your disposition or your personality traits? If you are an introvert, I would ask that you consider networking as definitely an avenue to be able to help grow all the wonderful things that you want to establish and develop. But keep in mind what your inhibitions are. So create almost a checklist, and some of these suggestions on the checklist from my side is focus on quality and not quantity. So a lot of people say, if I have 1,000 people in my network, I may be able to at least draw on 10 or 15. Whereas an introvert may probably be able to flip that same number around and say, it's okay, I have 10 or 15 people within my network, and that is fine because they are all extremely valuable and strong connections within my network, and that also qualify for my personal board of directors or qualify those dimensions that I need in order to pursue a network. Also, as an introvert, go ahead and mentally prepare yourself with some open-ended questions so that you are not in an awkward situation prior to the meeting, and mentally prepare and regurgitate those questions so that you can go out there and ask it. And if it makes a match, fantastic. If it doesn't, it's all right. But your inhibition is curtailed. Being an introvert, it just takes the heat off the scenario or the situation. Folks who are introverts can also work with other introverts to be able to network. That gives a very different experience as well. Also, consider taking a friend who's an extrovert into a scenario of networking so that you can actually bridge that gap with the person or the trusted friend that you take along. And also, often enough, when you take a trusted friend to a networking event, it gives you the opportunity to be able to learn and see and live that experience of almost cold networking that you can pick up. Also, build acquaintances within your context. If you're an introvert, you are going to be more successful because you know who they are and what they are before you build that network. So it becomes a little simpler because some of your inhibitions or barriers are a little easier to surpass. Also, work with people in a written form. What I mean by written form is if you are interacting in a blog, you're not talking to the person. So an introvert is very expressive. And if you are one such introvert who can express in the form of writing or reading or being able to make that connection through the written format, use the social media, use different blogs or discussion groups to be able to make yourself ready to build that network. So those would be some of the tips for an introvert to be able to network. Lastly, I want to talk about some of the goals that you need to make for yourself in terms of networking. So there is some networks that you need to build new and some that may be existing already. And within the new and existing, go ahead and look at some of your short-term goals being fulfilled with that network, and also some of your long-term goals that may help you fulfill that network. Okay, so draw it almost like a little grid with 4 boxes. On the very top, you want to go ahead and put the settings or the people that you want to network with as new, and some of the people that are existing where the relationships have gone good, success has been great. Reflect on those accomplishments and use that for your short term. Similarly, for the long-term goals, go ahead and do a new list of relationships and networks for what you are projecting for yourself down the line. And then use that to make connections and the kind of connections you want to make to be able to build that informal network based on all dimensions from a long-term perspective. So again, the grid is a 4-box column with short-term, new and existing people to network with, long-term, new and existing people that you have already worked with to be able to establish, make it stronger, and make sure that it's fulfilling all of the dimensions that you need to network. I've given you my promotion as an opportunity to think about creating that network. Write down the different dimensions that you need to address and make it happen. And once you write it down with the short-term goal of a promotion, write down the new relationships that you have to establish and the existing relationships that are already in there for you, but refresh with them, regurgitate with them, reflect with them what your relationship has been and what your new adventures are and what your new goals and aspirations are to be able to make that turn into reality. So as a proverb says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. So it's important to network if you want to go far, because that is what makes it a lot more enjoyable, a lot more achieved, and a lot more fruitful. So always create those networks that take you far by building a full board of directors for yourself. And that's what I'd like to finish off with. And want to share with you, if you are interested in either mentoring or being a mentee at Touch a Life Foundation, please visit us on our website at touchalife.org/career help and register to be a mentor or a mentee with us. And the next topic that I will bring to you through TALRadio is going to be span of influence. So it is an extension to the networking topic that I have spoken to you about, and hopefully that'll give you a flavor of how you build that span of influence and what does influence and relationship have in terms of a network that you have built, and how does it play in relationship with your personal board of directors. So looking forward to talking to you about span of influence in a week's time. But I hope you've enjoyed this, and thank you so much for listening to me.
Welcome back. You have just listened to The Need and Ways of Building Networks for Career by Roopa Sunku, Chief Evangelist at TAL Career Help. Stay tuned to TALRadio for many more interesting programs.